Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome our panel today. Welcome to day 367 of 15 days to slow the spread. Proponents of the economic lockdowns promised it would be just 15 days to flatten the curve. Instead of 15 days, the lockdown has now gone on for over a year. Early on in the pandemic, as we all remember, there were projections that hospitals would be full and have to turn away people. Medical equipment was in short supply. Businesses were closing. What they hoped would be on a temporary basis as governments started locking down their economies and telling people to stay home. At that time, when programs like PPP were created, no one was under the belief that we would still be doing this a year later, with no end in sight. The PPP program was devised as an emergency stopgap to keep businesses running and people on payroll at their job instead of having to be laid off. It's been a year now. The virus is in full retreat. Hospitalizations are declining rapidly. Vaccines have been rolling out since December. Instead of touting these incredible successes and offering people hope, governments keep moving the goalposts. Our hospitals are not overcrowded. We don't have PPE shortages. All the reasons the economy locked down in the first place are no longer a concern. It's time to reopen our economy. What we have learned is that this continued stream of money from Washington has encouraged way too many governors and mayors to keep their economies closed indefinitely. They stifle their economies, roll yellow police tape across store shelves, and threaten small businesses with revoking licenses or worse, then demand Washington clean up their mess when the businesses have to shut down for good. We should demand these elected officials stop imposing arbitrary rules and stop illogically picking winners and losers. We simply can't keep printing and borrowing trillions of dollars when the best thing we can do to provide relief now is to simply reopen the economy. Congress has spent more than $800 billion on the Paycheck Protection Program alone, and according to our estimates burn through $3.5 billion a day in taxpayer dollars. In just 1 year, the Small Business Administration went from being a $1 million agency to nearly $1 trillion agency. No agency is equipped for that kind of exponential growth in such a short time. Without adequate controls, the program has benefited large, well-financed businesses, alleged fraudsters, and organizations like Planned Parenthood. Despite the widespread evidence of fraud and misuse within the PPP, Congress expanded and funded the program 4 times. The president's recently signed $1.9 trillion package provided even more funding for PPP, despite signs of economic recovery. And many in Congress are discussing yet another extension of the program past its March 31st deadline. Meanwhile, the Small Business Administration Inspector General has produced 10 reports on the lack of SBA oversight of this program. The Department of Justice has charged 184 defendants with crimes related to PPP fraud, and the Government Accountability Office has now put emergency small business loans on its high-risk list for the first time in history. Small businesses are thriving in states that have eased restrictions. It is clear that there is pent-up demand for Americans to go back to their normal lives. This is, in many ways, a crisis of Congress's and governors' own making. I look forward to our discussion today on how we can improve the effectiveness and oversight of the program and how small businesses get back to business.